Imagine you're trapped in an invisible prison where anguish squeezes your chest like cold chains, stealing your breath in the middle of the night. Suddenly, a loving but firm voice says to you, "Are you ready to discover the freedom I offer you through 5 steps that will heal your soul right now?" If you feel a chill running through your skin at this moment, it's not by chance. It's God reaching out to you. Stay until the end, because these steps could be the key that frees your heart from darkness forever. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Laura, a school teacher in a coastal town in Chile, where the roar of the sea mingled with the salty wind that carried aromas of seaweed and saltpeter, reminding her of the immensity of a world that seemed to swallow her up. Laura lived drowned in anguish. The diagnosis of a chronic illness in her youngest daughter had plunged her into a pit of fear. The sleepless nights smelled of medicine and tears, and the stress of work made her feel as if she were carrying a heavy yoke on her delicate shoulders, with the echo of children's laughter in the classroom contrasting with the oppressive silence of her home. Every dawn, she woke up with her heart beating wildly, wondering, "God, why does this anguish consume me? Where is the freedom you promise in your word?" But deep within her spirit, a flame of hope flickered, weak as a candle in the sea breeze, whispering to her that God does not abandon his children in the storm, but reveals paths of healing that transform pain into peace. Laura had no idea that this week, God would give her 5 divine steps, not as magic recipes, but as a sacred map to heal her anguish now, if only she would follow them with an open heart. It was a cloudy evening, with the sun sinking into the ocean like a submerged promise, when Laura, exhausted after a day of classes, sat on the beach with her Bible in her hands, feeling the cold sand beneath her feet and the salt water clinging to her skin as a reminder of her fragility. In that moment of forced stillness, she opened the sacred book and her eyes fell on Philippians 4, 6, 7. "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This was the initial revelation, the first divine step, acknowledging and surrendering the anguish. God was telling her that freedom begins with admitting the pain, not hiding it, but placing it as an offering into his loving hands. Laura, her salty tears mingling with the sea, whispered, "Lord, I take this anguish that drowns me and give it to you. It is no longer mine." In that instant, she felt a subtle relief, as if an invisible weight were fading away with the waves. But the tension grew. What would happen if she didn't take the other steps? The next day, at the hospital with her daughter, the doctor brought unexpected news. The illness was responding better to treatment, a glimmer of hope in her darkness. Yet the anguish still lurked, like elongated shadows at dusk, driving her to seek the second step. The second step revealed itself on a sleepless night, when the wind howled outside her window like a distant wail, and Laura, with the lavender scent of her daughter's room permeating the air, felt panic rise like a tide. God guided her to Matthew 11:28-30. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Understand, this was the step of seeking rest in his presence, inviting her to let go of control and take refuge in intimate prayer, not as a ritual, but as a fatherly embrace. Laura knelt, feeling the hardwood floor beneath her knees, and prayed with vulnerability, "Jesus, I take your yoke. Give me your rest in the midst of this storm." Peace came like a gentle wave, calming her troubled mind. And at dawn, a friend from church appeared with food and support, easing her daily burden. But all was not calm. Doubts whispered, will this rest last, or will the anguish return with a vengeance? This tension kept her hooked, longing for the third step to deepen her healing. The third step arose during a time of work crisis, when at school, surrounded by the bustle of children and the smell of chalk and old books, Laura received an unfair reprimand from her principal, fueling an anger that mingled with her anguish like poison in an open wound. God, in his mercy, led her to Ephesians 4:31-32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, clamor and slander, along with every form of malice. Instead, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgave you. This step was soul-releasing forgiveness, revealing that anguish feeds on unresolved grudges, and freedom comes from forgiving as Christ forgave. With a trembling heart, Laura prayerfully confronted her resentment toward the principal and toward the fate that had stolen so much from her, whispering, I forgive, Lord, as you have forgiven me. The turnaround came quickly. The director apologized the next day, offering her a temporary promotion. But more profoundly, Laura felt a lightness in her chest, as if chains were being broken. However, the emotional intensity persisted, with unanswered questions. What if forgiveness isn't enough to heal the deepest part? The fourth step was revealed during a visit to her daughter's doctor, where the smell of antiseptic and the sound of beeping machines fueled her anguish like a latent fire. God directed her to Psalm 119:105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Udiki, this was the step of illuminating with his word, inviting her to immerse herself in the scriptures, not as casual reading, but as a light that dispels the shadows of the mind. Laura began memorizing verses of peace, feeling the words like balm on her wounded soul. And that night, she read to Sophia Bible stories that soothed them both. The surprise came. An anonymous donor paid for part of the medical treatment, as if God were illuminating a hidden path. But the tension didn't subside. Laura wondered if this light would be enough for the darkest nights, creating a suspense that propelled her toward the fifth step. The fifth step culminated on a sunny Sunday with the scent of fresh flowers in the church and the choir singing hymns that resonated in her heart like a call. God showed her James 1:2-4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of various kinds, knowing that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And perseverance should do its perfect work, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. This was the step of embracing trials with gratitude, transforming anguish into growth by giving thanks for the lessons in the pain. Laura, with a trembling voice, gave thanks in prayer for each trial, feeling a profound freedom flow like a flooding river. The transformation was miraculous. Her daughter showed remarkable improvements. Her sewing studio flourished with new clients, and a supernatural peace enveloped her home. But the mystery of how these intertwined steps healed the impossible kept her pondering, as if God had entrusted her with a forbidden secret for anguished souls. And so, in just a few days, Laura went from the prison of anguish to absolute freedom, proving that God's 5 steps are not theory, but a living path to healing now. Isn't it shocking how a surrendered heart can receive such freedom? If this story has stirred your soul, it's because God gives these steps to you. Are you ready to acknowledge, rest, forgive, enlighten, and embrace now? Have you felt that anguish that Laura overcame? If it's touched you, it's because this video needed to reach you. Share in the comments, I choose God's freedom. And if you feel the courage to heal, subscribe to the channel. But only if you're willing to walk these steps today. God bless you, and remember, freedom doesn't wait, it calls you now.